Are the Iowa farmers that $20 billion is going to their
40 billion dollars.
$40 billion is going to their competitors.
Oh, they're pissed. Oh yeah, and what's really interesting about it is the tariffs are the ones that create, like the trade war. The tariffs created the problem, got rid of the markets, and now we're going to pay them back with money from the tariffs that started the problem. Doesn't make any sense, right? They're more pissed. Farmers they don't want a bailout. Farmers want fair markets. That's what they want. They want good, fair markets, and they had that until Trump got there and started doing what he's doing.
Absolutely. And pretty much all he's saying is, and he's summarizing the entire situation, but yeah, that's all they want. They want fair markets. They want to be able to go in and sell the things. They don't want bailouts. Farmers just want to be able to go out and sell the product that they have. That's it. Seriously. And even this manufactured trade deficit that we're dealing with, trade war, or, all these different, it's all manufactured from tariffs from the start. And even as we look at how deep it's going to get with the farmers and the bankruptcies, when is the end going to be in sight? Because they're still announcing even more tariffs. You got 100% tariff that just got announced on China. So, which is China's our biggest importer or soybeans. So guess what? It's only going to get worse from here.
This is awful discouraging.
I had that for 50 years. Yes, I did.
That Iowa soybean farmer says we could be headed for another farm crisis after China halted purchases of U.S. soybeans. China's boycotting the product as retaliation against new tariffs imposed by President Trump.
And KCCI senior reporter Todd Magel talked with a veteran soybean farmer who says they're in big trouble.
It's just about time to harvest the soybeans here in Osceola, but the problem now is finding a place to sell those beans. Warren Bachman has been growing corn and soybeans just west of Osceola for 64 years. China bought 60% of the soybeans that Iowa exported. He says China's decision to stop buying U.S. soybeans is catastrophic.
This is awful discouraging. We do our very best to grow a good crop to feed the world, and then we can't hardly give it away.
A 95% increase in farm bankruptcies, guys. What happened to the whole America First? And even as we talk about this situation right here, it was America First. Remember, they were talking about farmers are going to be, thriving under this administration. They talked about Americans are going to be thriving under this whole administration. They talked about grocery prices going down. They talked about the cost of living going down, inflation, and all these different things going down. Listen, they are in the peak of the harvest season. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a farmer expert. I've never been a farmer. I've actually have never planted, actually, yes, I have. I've planted some seeds before and grew a plant, whatever the case is. But I'm not a farmer expert. That doesn't make me a farmer. But even as I watch this, seriously, can you imagine you were in a business that was doing okay? I mean, of course, they had their struggles in many different areas. And you have this guy who comes in and just destroys everything. I'm talking just kicks over all the building blocks, kicks over everything that you had built up within the situation just from something that could have been completely avoided. And don't get me wrong, even as we talk about, how people made their decisions during the past election, right? Like as we look at what percent of Americans voted, and farmers specifically voted for Trump within the past election. It is crazy. And I hate to even dive deep into it because a lot of people continue to support these policies. A lot of people continue to, vote on these different things. But let's check this out, y'all. This is a heavily red state, y'all. Heavily red. I'm talking every single county except for 5 on this entire map support this whole system. I'm not saying this guy right here is voted for Trump. I'm not saying everybody, all the farmers in this state voted for this. But what I am saying is, why are we even in this position in the first place? It's crazy.
Bachman blames President Trump for the soybean crisis, even though he voted for him. He says new tariff.
Oh my God, y'all heard that. Y'all heard it. Check this out. Let's go back. And that I guess that just omits everything I just said right there. Check this out.
Soybean crisis, even though he voted for him.
Even though he voted for him, he still blames the president. And this is the other thing. And I got to say this before I let the rest of this video play. Was it not an open notebook test? Was it not something that everybody knew except for, it's like, when we talk about the farmers, it's like they all just had no idea that this was going to happen. It's like it just came out of complete left field, like they didn't know. Guys, he talked about tariffs during every single rally, every single campaign, every single event that he had. He talked about tariffs. Every single event. He also talked about immigration. Every single event. He talked about bringing grocery prices down. Every single event. He talked about cutting wasteful spending. Epstein files. Do y'all remember he talked about Epstein files? He was like, get rid of all corruption. We're going to, be completely open and all these different things. And, I got to give a little credit to them just a little bit, right? Because some of these things he lied. He completely lied and just to get into office. But guys, a lot of these things, it hasn't changed from when he talked. It blows my mind. So many people voted on identity politics versus actual policy. And now we're in it, and now they're seeing exactly what they voted for. And it's crazy, y'all.
He says new tariffs are forcing China to buy soybeans from Argentina and Brazil. Now many Iowa farmers face selling this year's crop at a huge loss.
The way things are, there won't be a farmer left in 5 years if things don't change, because our expenses are so high and the crop is worth less than it was 30 years ago.
Bachman survived the farm crisis during the 1980s. It led to thousands of farm foreclosures. If the federal government offers crop payments to help farmers, Bachman says he'll say no thanks.
We would a lot rather have free markets than a handout.
Bachman recently asked Iowa Senator Charles Grassley for help with those free markets.
I told him that the 1980s farm crisis is going to look like a picnic compared to today if things don't change and change fast.
Now, U.S. farmers are looking for more markets to sell their soybeans, like biodiesel here in this country, but that could lead to fewer soybeans being planted next year. In Osceola, Todd Magel, KCCI 8 News, Iowa's news leader.
Now, President Trump talked about the impact of tariffs during a meeting with the president of Turkey this afternoon. He says right now farmers may be struggling, but tariffs will eventually work in their favor.
How? What part of tariffs will eventually work in our favor? And that's what I continue to watch these videos. And that's where I draw the line, because there's no part of tariffs that are going to work in our favor, guys. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to call it the Trump tax from that. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it the Trump tax from now on. Well, how in the actual... How? From what? And don't get me wrong, I'm not an economist. I'm not a politician. I don't make these decisions. But from what system and when have tariffs ever worked in the favor of my bad, not tariffs, the Trump tax? When has the Trump tax ever worked in favor of the United States? I mean, yeah, we're bringing in a lot of money, billions of dollars, right? I think the number was probably at like 200 billion or something like that, right? We're bringing in a lot of money, which we gave 40 billion to Argentina, right? It's gone now, but I'm just saying, we're bringing a lot of money, and where's the money coming from also, right? The money is coming from Americans, the consumers. It's not these other countries. Yes, there are a portion of it that are coming from these other consumers, but companies import goods. They bring goods into the United States. They get hit with a tariff bill where they try to negotiate whether the manufacturer actually pays the tariff bill or the company pays the tariff bill, which in most cases, and on a grand scale of cases, the company ends up paying that tariff bill. Hence, your Walmarts, your Targets, all these people who are trying to raise prices. They've already announced they're raising prices. Your Home Depots, all these different companies, they raise the price and they end up passing the cost, that tariff, that Trump tax, the tax that Trump has manufactured. They pass it along to the consumer every single time. It never fails. And now what we're seeing is these people, guys like this, and don't get me wrong, even though he voted for it, I'm just going to look past that. Now you've got the farmers who voted for this suffering as an effect of this, y'all.